Effects from Monarch, Sean Conrad. If you guys don't mind just introducing yourselves, just so he can get to know you all.
Hello.
Hi.
Steve from the record.
That's me.
Mike.
Hi.
Sorry, wait.
Sarah.
Mary with Student Media.
Mary.
Jonathan, Daily Dead.
Great. Nice to meet you, Jonathan.
Nice to meet you.
All right, here we go.
I'll go first.
Yeah, great.
So, love the first season of Monarch, and I'm curious from a visual effects perspective. Obviously, you're working with Godzilla. You have the kind of films to use as reference. Like how, like when it came to creating Godzilla throughout it, did you use previous models? Did you create it from the beginning? Because you're doing a show over the course of multiple episodes, as opposed to one movie and different budgets. So, how does that work when it comes to using Godzilla?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit boring, but at the end of a project, the companies that work on the asset of Godzilla will create a package and then send that to Legendary, and then it goes into our archive, and then if we need to put that with other companies, we can. And on our show, we actually had two different iterations of Godzilla, the Godzilla from the 2014 film, and then the King of the Monsters movie, where the dorsal fins are changed a little bit. And then on top of that, we have to do little updates here and there depending on where you get to it. Like we get right into his dorsal fin, so you have to, areas that may not have been seen in close detail in other movies. So you have to sort of manage all those things. We made a dusty version of him, all those things need to be managed, but somehow through a production pipeline. Yeah.
That's nice. And then obviously the look of Godzilla changes, even if just a little bit from film to film. So when it came to using the reference and figuring out the timeline, you used the original. I assume you started with the original kind of base and just updated it from there.
Our TV show takes place in two time periods, one in the 50s and then one in sort of near modern times. And so the Godzilla that appears in each of those timelines in specific points in those timelines is different based on things that happen off screen and all of that kind of stuff. So the look is something that we reference all the time. I worked on the Godzilla 2014 film as an artist, and so I'm super familiar with how that version of Godzilla goes together. And then I worked on King of the Monsters as well, and so I've got a lot of experience managing that stuff. And there's little differences. It's little differences in how he moves too. Like he gets a little bit more loose and quick in King of the Monsters, and then keeps getting quicker and quicker as the movies go on.
My last related question to that is when it comes to approvals. I know that Toho has an approval process for certain things. Godzilla can make certain cannot emote in certain ways or can. How did that work for the show when it came to approval?
They see rough cuts. We share post-viz with them. We share early animation with them to make sure that they believe in what we're doing. They often just give us very straightforward notes of just don't make him this fast in this scene or whatever. But they're generally very receptive. They like new ideas. They're great collaborative partners in all of this. The best note that we got from them though was I was trying to figure out, we were having a story problem connecting. In the last episode, there was a scene where Godzilla was being lured to a place by a device, and we had to figure out how can we sell that to the audience of making sure they understand that that's why Godzilla has shown up is because of that device. And so we sent a request to them of, has anybody ever done anything with the vision of Godzilla and is that, could we see a heat signature coming off this device or something like that would tell that? And the note back that we got was, we've thought about this a lot and considered doing it, but we believe that Godzilla's perspective is unknowable. I got chills, and I'm like, hell yeah. Best studio note I've got in my career. So.
That's good, thank you.
Wow, that's interesting. You had a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, just take a wild guess, you've worked on other TV series before. Has this been one of the more daunting tasks of just how much visual effects that are involved? Comparative?
Yeah, and the tough thing is it's the budgets are sort of similar, and so you have to stretch that budget across a season of television. It's a really healthy, good budget, and there's a lot to do. But a lot of it comes into pacing and story efficiency, and it's a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily very fun to talk about, but But what's great about working with Apple and our creative team and Legendary is they're very open to figuring out ways to tell stories in sort of glimpses, and then give us the big popping moments where we really need to commit to the large scene work that we need to do to really sell the filming scale.
And I was just saying, like, you mentioned using the older model of Godzilla, and that was something like you use, like, say, for the San Francisco scene, the flashback. Obviously,
San Francisco, anything in the 1950s timeline uses the one with the spikier dorsal fins, and then the rounder ones come in sort of episode 6 when we see Godzilla come out of the side of a giant mountain and nearly crush our heroes. And, yeah.
Was there, I mean, he was definitely chunkier in the first film, I feel like, compared to...
The body is really similar between 2014 and King of the Monsters. In GXK, sort of as a process of, I'm not sure how much of this is like canonized or whatever, but my understanding is as a process of him consuming consuming the underwater creature that he does, he burns a lot of energy to sort of gain his new powers.
You got that.
Definitely. That's funny.
I have other questions.
Let me just ask a
Yeah,
quick
you go
one.
ahead.
I'm just curious, how did you get into this field? I know it has nothing really to do with Godzilla, but how did you get into this field?
My brother started a visual effects company back out in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and he made a lot of friends in the industry through the years, and so I just kind of came along for the ride, and yeah, I've been doing this for a while. It's been a great opportunity. I got to shoot in Vancouver where I live, and then the next season, which has not been properly announced or anything, but I shot that in Australia and got to second unit direct a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, it's been
And
a ride.
is this was this your project that you're working on, or do you have others that you're doing too?
I've been on this since November 2021.
Oh wow.
So I got brought in very early in the process as like to sort of assist with the writers, help them shape the story, help them structure things, and yeah. Godzilla is like a really important property to me, and being able to contribute at that level, like work with the writers and work with Toho and everybody, it's been a dream come true.
Cool.
Since obviously Godzilla's a big part of it, but there's other kaiju and monsters and creatures and all kinds of things throughout this season. So, what was it like being able to kind of create these and add these to the universe?
Yeah, it's an interesting design process, and sometimes it's a really straightforward one, and sometimes it's quite convoluted. A lot of it comes down to story point and what ideas the writers may have, and there's basically like a philosophy of monster design for Legendary that is very similar to the original Godzilla, which, the original Godzilla is a mishmash of, a T-Rex, a Stegosaurus, and a Iguanodon, all kind of blended together in this hybridized form. So Legendary took that idea of things from the natural world, embellished into things that resemble mythological creatures from our language and history of storytelling, and tried to put that into their own monster designs in the universe and stuff. So like we have one creature that just got a physical toy of it, but the Frostvark, which is a combination of a pangolin and a star-nosed mole, and so it's an armored plated monster with a big squid-like face and and then we threw some scary teeth on it because why not? And and so that was literally on the page that way. One of our co-creators on the show, Matt Fraction, who comic fans will know, he was paying his son his allowance by getting him to research strange creatures from the natural world, and so he found those two things, and that was sort of the inspiration of it. And then other ones, it's a lot more circuitous, where you like look at the mythology of the area where you're placing a monster, and there's nothing that really quite works, or there's something that could work but the design doesn't work, and you look at the comic books and find things that you may want to pull from, and they don't quite work either, and so it can be really quite the creature that we spent the longest sort of developing, I think, took 4 months of iteration and change and concepts, and I think we did like 7 fundamentally different concepts for what that monster could be, and something the writer may just have like a single line on the page of what it is, and so you have to embellish that a lot.
Favorite Godzilla film?
I mean, Godzilla, the original, is sort of undeniably great. I think like Shin Godzilla is also, I think like monsters as metaphor, I think is a really incredible thing. I kind of got into that after I watched Bong Joon-ho's The Host and just revisited all the kaiju movies and started thinking about what all that means about, you know, like nuclear paranoia and all of that. And what Shin Godzilla says about like public service and bureaucracy, I think is like increasingly salient to the world that we live in. And, you know, I think 10 years on from when that movie came out, it's really, really incredible. So that is probably at my top. But like Dark Horse, if you want like a fun, campy one, Godzilla versus Biollante is like a movie brave enough to beg the question of what if Godzilla fought a monster that was a hybrid of himself and a rose plant, generated by nefarious corporate interests trying to exploit a resource for the gain and accidentally destroying the planet in the way, and not at all salient to our current conditions. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a really fun one that I think a lot of people overlook. So.
I mean, I've seen it all, but I mean, I want to be respectful of your time, so I think we got enough.
I think we do too.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
So much.
Thank you. It was very nice to meet you. Thank you.